Hey, hello everyone, welcome to 2024 Leadership Collection Hustings. I'm Archie McCann, the returning officer. I'll be chairing for some of this, and for another part it'll be Coredig, who is a current sabbatical officer and has previously been Deputy Chair of SC Council, and is a member of the Democracy Committee, so he knows what he's doing. So what we're going to do basically is go in order. I have an order here. The order is, I have statements from two candidates who weren't able to make it. I have the double time officer, the BME officer, the disabled students officer, then we'll have a break. Then the two access, education and participation officers, postgraduate and undergraduate, then a break, and then the same for the postgraduate and undergraduate president. And then we'll finish, and we can all go home. So, I think without significant further ado, the only things I really need to say is that this is being recorded and live streamed. So if you don't want something you say recorded, don't say it in this room. I think it's roughly between here and that column, let's say, is where the picture is. So if you don't want your face being recorded, don't stand around here. Simple enough. I think candidates will have an opening and closing statement, both of 1 minute each. We'll go to questions for each position. Again, 1 minute responses to that. I'll have a timer down here so candidates can see. We have some pre-submitted questions, but we'll also take questions from the room and from the live stream as well, possibly. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them. That's kind of what this whole thing's about.
Don't really have a huge amount else to say other than
please be nice to each other. This is all about student representation, not to sort of take your grudges out on people on live stream. So if you are planning on doing that, find your own way to do it, because I'm going to try to be relatively strict on time and also on behaviour.
If that makes any sense. I'm going to make sure that speaking time is balanced in general where there's multiple candidates. And then one final thing is that I'm going to repeat this again, but return or reopen nominations is a candidate in every election. So if you want to vote for Ron, you can. Okay, I think that's about everything I have to say.
There can be a little bit of back and forth on the questions. Anything from you, Tash? Okay, brilliant. So thank you very much. I'm going to read out the statement I've received from the candidate for University Councillor. So just pretend I'm them. Just give me 1 second to find it. He did send it to me. Yeah, got it. There we are. So the candidate, there is one non-Ron candidate for University Councillor, and that is Alex Mile. And so I'll just sort of be Alex, if everyone's all right with that. So here we go. First of all, I apologise that I can't be with you in person. I am, as we speak, or I speak, organising a lecture at Robinson, and will tell you all to come, but you are, alas, here. The main thing I want to say is to reiterate my manifesto commitments. I want to, of course, build off the excellent work of my predecessor, particularly on climate and fair pay for staff. I will maintain pressure on the university to divest from fossil fuel, stop taking money from large oil and gas companies, and implement practical solutions in Cambridge to make this university carbon positive. I will also seek to give JCRs and MCRs a voice at University Council by gauging their opinions on current business going through the University Council. As a current JCR president, I believe these are the student-facing organisations that students actually know, use and trust to represent them at the college level. With a renewed effort to engage with JCRs and MCRs, I hope that they can be effectively represented at the university level as well. As well as these broader points, I want to emphasise some smaller scale but more easily deliverable policies that I aim to campaign at the University Council for. Number one, I will aim to ensure open access to all colleges for all Cambridge students. Currently, far too many Cambridge students feel like trespassers at their own university. Confusing and inconsistent college policies mean that students are often restricted access to colleges even when they have supervisions there. I will campaign for the university to introduce a university-wide policy that states that all colleges must allow for access by University of Cambridge students on presentation of a valid CAN card at reasonable hours. Number 2, I will also aim to continue the campaign over the workload crisis during the current workload consultation. I know as a JCR president the extent to which students are overworked in this university. There must be a change as soon as possible. Either the amount of work set needs to be decreased or the term needs to be increased in length, with the same amount of work set to address this crisis. Same amount of work set to address this crisis. There we are. Number 3, last but not least, I will campaign for university support via wellbeing grants to colleges for free prescription schemes. I am currently in the process of introducing a free prescription scheme as JCR president at Robinson, and believe strongly in both the mental and physical health benefits of these schemes as well as their cost-effective nature. Overall, I will be a strong voice for students on University Council. I will campaign for a more equal university for all students and aim to give JCRs and MCRs a more prominent voice at the centre of the university. Thank you very much. Apologies again that I could not be with you tonight. And please vote for me, or Alex that is. If you have any questions or queries, I'm more than happy to answer them. Please do email me at am3073@can.ac.uk. So, get in touch, I guess. He did tell me that he will be happy to answer questions via email. Brilliant. Okay, I don't believe we've received another statement, so if we do at any point, I'll let you know. But moving on from that, we have the double time officer, for which we have one candidate plus one. So yes, feel free to come up and we'll get started. Brilliant, thank you very much. Do you want to introduce yourself for the room?
Hi, I'm Ruth. I'm a Medwards Amamala, and yeah, I'm running for double time officer.
Brilliant. So if you'd like to make an opening statement, I'll give you a minute and I'll just put the timer there so you know where we're going.
Great. Yeah, so as double time officer, I'd have 2 main aims. Those are awareness and support. Double time isn't necessarily known about, even by students for whom it could be really beneficial. If you don't know what double time is, it's an adjusted mode of assessment by which students who have a chronic condition or for personal reasons study 1 academic year over 2 calendar years. In terms of support, for students applying, the process can be long and it can be challenging, and so I really want to be able to increase support for these students. I really want to be listening to double time students' voices and experiences, and using these to highlight discrepancies in experiences and have an informed perspective to petition to speed up and simplify what can be a really tricky process. Double time students can also struggle with feeling isolated, and I'd really love to help strengthen the double time community. So yeah, I'm strongly motivated to increase awareness and support. But yeah, happy to receive any questions on that.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I guess we can just move on to questions. I have a couple here, but as I said before, anyone online or in the room, I'm happy to take questions sort of alternating between the ones I've already got. So, question number 1. What do you think is the single biggest issue facing double time students in Cambridge, and what will you do if elected to help address that issue? Once again, I'm just going to...
Sure. I think for students who actually have been fortunate enough to know that double time exists, I think the application process is one of the toughest things. For example, my first double time application took 6 months, and being forced to try and study full time for that is really challenging. So what I really want to do is kind of get a bigger picture and understand which students have had more positive application processes, for which students has it been really tricky, and yeah, from that can we look at, are there some colleges that are supporting their students well? Are there some ways of doing it, for example, a case conference, which is actually really detrimental to a student, and yeah, being able to draw those things together to highlight specific parts of it, of the process, which really could be simplified or speeded up.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the floor while we're here, or online? Nothing? Brilliant. In that case, I'll move on to question 2 that I have, which is, how are you going to raise awareness of double time as an option for students? You said previously that it was sort of something that isn't very known about. how are you going to increase that?
Yeah, so I think one of the primary things is that college staff know about it, because ultimately, at least in my experience, when I was significantly struggling, the first person I went to was my tutor. And it might be a tutor, it might be a DOS, but ensuring that college staff are aware of it, as often college staff aren't aware, which means that the staff can then suggest it as an option. And besides that, working really hard with other officers to be able to increase awareness, whether that's through social media, whether that's through getting grad out and other means, but really ensuring that students themselves know that is an option, and students struggling with chronic conditions are not forced to have intermission or dropping out as their only options.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And any other questions from the room? Nothing that I see. In that case, I'll move on to my third question I've got here, which is, what is the main goal you wish to achieve if successfully elected into the double time role?
Yeah, so I think the feedback that I've had from talking with other double time students is that double time is, being on double time is transformational, but waiting to be on double time can be a real struggle, and so the main goal would be to be highlighting how this is, how every day waiting for a decision for a double time student is another day of really, really struggling through, and highlighting this and really working to ensure that we can improve wealth of double time students by making this process a lot shorter and simpler.
Thank you very much. One last question from the room, if there is one. I don't see anyone. Fantastic. So in that case, if you have any sort of final remarks, you have a final minute, but you don't have to use it all if you don't want to.
I'll just conclude by saying that the double time application process can be really challenging to navigate, and I really want to do what I can to make this easier in terms of raising awareness and increasing support, really listening to double time students and petitioning to simplify the process. Those who apply for double time do so because they're really, really struggling, and I'm really motivated to work hard to increase the support that these students receive.
Thank you very much. As I said at the beginning, reopen nominations is a candidate for this election as well. But thank you very much, Ruth. Cheers. Brilliant. So in that case, we will move on to our next race, which is the BME officer. So I think we have one candidate for that isn't Ron, and that's Ruth. So feel free to come forward. I'll change that glass. Fantastic. So if you want to introduce yourself and then give a sort of 1 minute personal statement, a 1 minute sort of pitch to the room as your opening statement.
Okay, yes, this is Maruf Rafiq. I use the pronouns he and him, and as you know, have been working as a sabbatical officer for the Black and minority ethnic students, and I'm rerunning again the position. And for this year, my two priorities would be decolonization hub that I will be setting, or decolonization in general. And the second would be to building up the BME campaign. And the reason for that is we have a governance review underway, and there is a possibility that in terms of after the finalization of the governance review, there may not be a BME sabbatical officer. So it is very important for me that even after, if that happens, in case there is a fully up and running BME campaign, which can hold on to the next projects that my office has been holding. And in terms of like decolonization hub, we already have a policy being passed on diversify the curriculum, and I have had my student consultation already done. The second is going to be done on 7th of March. So if you have any other questions, please.
Brilliant, thanks very much. I'll move on to the questions I have in front of me. Sure. One of them is, so you mentioned sort of your two main priorities.
Yeah.
If you had to choose a single biggest issue that's facing students, and facing BME students in Cambridge, what's the single biggest issue, and what specifically will you do to help address that issue? You covered it a bit, but you can give more detail now if you'd like.
In terms of like a project, I would say it would be decolonization. But in terms of an issue, I think the biggest issue that people or the students of color are facing are racial profiling. And we already have two policies on that. The one is like racial harassment training, anti-racial harassment training for the students as well as for the staff. So I already have raised this issue in different EDI committees, for example, that for porters, in some of the colleges there is just 20 minutes EDI training, which is also online, which they can take during even lunch hours. So I'm kind of pushing the university to have more focused trainings on that aspect. And for students, as I have mentioned in my manifesto, that I am really looking forward that how can we have bystander intervention training, where we focus on the 5Ds under that training and kind of see that how we can stop if there is any racial harassment happening within our circle or in any public space.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the room or online? Yeah, I see Javier there. If you say your question, then I'll repeat it to the microphone.
My question is about reporting racial harassment. As you mentioned, Oscar, the Office of the Student Conduct Complaints and Appeals in the manifesto.
Yeah.
I guess I'd be interested in how you approach improving Oscar and reporting procedures for students in colleges and universities.
So if I can just repeat that for the microphone, it's effectively how will you improve the reporting system for racial harassment in the university, with a specific focus on Oscar, which is the sort of body that oversees that to some extent. Is that an accurate?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Go for it.
So first of all, I have had my termly meetings with the newly appointed racial harassment advisor within the university center. So my first step would be collaborating with them in the university center and moving forwards on how we can deal with this issue. And since the racial harassment advisor position has been very newly inducted, which they started in, I believe, October or November last year, so they were still trying to figure out what their main focus areas would be while working as a racial harassment advisor, because it's a newly created role and there are quite a few nuances to that. In this length term, I had a meeting with the racial harassment advisor, and we find out that in the OSCA, there is no explicit definition of racism, rather they call it racial misconduct. And there was kind of a sense of, there was a sense that the university maybe is trying to hide the fact that racism exists, or like kind of sugarcoat it with other words that are more politically correct and may not kind of invite any sort of criticisms. So my kind of working would that be to, first of all, address the issue that there is an issue of racism within this university, and then kind of following up on that with the proper procedures that how can we address them more effectively and efficiently.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I'll move on to my next question here, which is, along with being a sabbatical officer, as you mentioned, you're on the BME campaign.
Yeah.
So how will you manage the two responsibilities? You mentioned a bit about how you want to build the BME campaign in case the BME sabbatical officer is no longer there. But how will you manage the two responsibilities concurrently, seeing as there is a BME sabbatical officer?
Yeah. So currently, many people know that I am also acting as a BME sabbatical officer, kind of taking up the responsibilities of the chair of the BME campaign. So BME forums that I have been running with the help of our coordinator of the campaigns, I'm because I felt that there is a lack of kind of taking up the responsibilities. I felt that this is my kind of duty to fill that lacuna as a BME sabbatical officer. So the sabbatical officer is also the president of the BME campaign. And if, as a president, there is a sense that the chair or vice chair may not be able to fill their duties, the president can take some steps to effectively manage it. So this term, what I started doing is having fortnightly regular BME forum meetings where we discuss different issues. We kind of give them a title, and the agenda is shared publicly on the BME campaign pages. So I believe that I can still carry that on that role. And my focus is that during the campaign elections that are going to happen between 4th of March to 11th of March, if I'm not wrong, to have all those committee positions being fulfilled, especially the core committee positions. We have a dedicated president, chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer, as well as the other committees positions that are available under the standing orders of the BME campaign, so that we have an up and running BME campaign, as I said. So we already have an education officer now, postgraduate officer.
Sorry.
Yeah. So we have quite a few already members. Like, since I have come into the role, we have now much more active BME campaign committee as compared to it was before. But yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Any other questions from the room? I see one over there. If you want to say it, and I'll repeat it again.
Yeah. So obviously there are no other candidates, and you're running as an incumbent. Do you think that says something about interaction between BME students and the SU? Because you mentioned already BME campaign didn't have all its roles filled this year, and is that an issue that you plan to address, and how do you plan to address sort of that issue of BME students not feeling like they can sort of put themselves forward in the SU?
Yeah, so the question was effectively, there's only one candidate for this position, as well as we open nominations, and you're the incumbent BME officer, so does it suggest something about sort of BME students in the university feeling that they feeling that they're not able to put themselves forward, it's not engaging to some extent? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah,
first of all, I would address this issue by considering the fact that a lot of students in this university are international students who are a person of color. So majority of the students who are person of color are international students, and sometimes they don't understanding the dynamics of being a sabbatical officer and how important it is. And although we are kind of addressing that issue, and we have built up the whole campaign in such a way that now there is much more awareness as it was before, but I think there's still some kind of lacunas in that aspect and inadequacy that we can still address and have that kind of sense of inclusion for the international students, that this student union is as much as theirs as anyone else's. And I think there may be some negative connotations attached to the role as well. But again, it can be built up in the future, and I seriously believe that in the future there could be a lot of other candidates that can be interested in the role and can be persuaded to run for the position.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I think we will move on to, unless there's been questions online, I think we'll just move on to your closing statement, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, you have a minute, you don't have to use it, but if there's any final comments to the room.
I think I have addressed most of the issues. The only thing that I would like to address is that Decolonization Hub would be like my priority as a project under this campaign, and again, just vote for me. And there is Cultures Combined and Cambridge Refined, so maybe we can work on that. There is a news recently of Cambridge having admissions of skewed nature, so maybe we can address that together in the future. So yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, thanks very much. And again, just remind everyone that reopen nominations is another candidate in this election, so there are two candidates.
Yeah.
Anyway, give everyone a round of applause.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I think we'll move on to the what's next? The Disabled Students Officer. Do we have a candidate for disabled students? No, don't believe so. Did we get a statement through? No. If that happens, we will let you know. In that case, well, what do you think? Great. Brilliant. So we'll have a break, and then we'll go to the Access, Education and Participation Officers. I think break for 10 minutes, so get water, go to the loo, have some food, whatever. If you're online, you can do that anyway. And then I'll see you back here at 10 to 7 at 6:50. Thank you.
come back into the room. We're now going to start with the next two roles. Just to note, Charlo, who is running for Disabled Students Officer, doesn't appear to have been able to come tonight. They are running for Disabled Students Officer. Ron is also a candidate in that election. Swiftly moving on to Postgraduate Access, Education and Participation Officer, will the candidates please come to the table?
Hello.
Feel free to make yourself comfortable. Have yourself to water.
Thank you.
Would you both like to just quickly introduce yourselves to begin? So, name and what you're running for, etc.
Yeah, sure. Hello everyone, I'm Neela Madhuri. I'm standing for the PG Access Education and Participation Officer, and I'm from Queen's College. So my background is from India, and I'm doing a master's in machine learning at the moment at Cambridge.
Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia, and I'm also running for the Postgraduate Access Education and Participation. I am from St. Edmund's College, and I am doing my master's in criminology at Institute of Criminology.
Would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So my motto or my slogan that goes is empower, enhance, and engage. That's exactly what I would like to resonate. So from my previous experience in my undergraduate, where I did as a vice president of the student council, I did see a lot of changes, and that really enhanced the students' experience. And I want to bring something similar to that here. And in my previous 5 months that I've spent here, there were quite some things that I came across, and I really want to emphasize on that and make some change to the students, especially in terms of access, education, and participation, because that's where I found a lot of improvements could be there, which especially a few pointers I've emphasized in my manifesto, which I really look forward to, bring it into action.
Thank you very much. Cynthia,
Yes, so I am the current postgraduate representative for the Faculty of Social Sciences, and through that I have seen for myself firsthand the gaps that needs to be filled, and which is why I am pushing for 3 things: for inclusion, education, and empowerment. During my campaign for the postgraduate representative for social sciences, I pushed for inclusivity, advocacy, and collaboration, but now I am choosing empowerment and education, because I realize that as postgraduates, being empowered stands out more, because most postgraduates have 1 year in master's or PhD, when after they are done, there are a lot of things they need to do. So trying to follow up on the requirements kind of what they need to do is like what is foiling my motivation for applying for this position. I want to be able to give them the opportunity to have more resources living in Cambridge.
Thank you very much. Okay, so our first pre-submitted question. What do you view as the biggest barrier to widening participation in postgraduate education? Cynthia, do you want to start?
So the biggest barrier for me is, and from speaking to students, is the idea that the school is catered more towards undergraduates, and postgraduates just have a limited time, and they have this perspective of, oh, let's just endure it, and it's just 1 year, it's just few years, let's just get through with it. I think that is the biggest barrier to participation, and trying to push for postgraduates to know that they can be fully involved in the system.
No?
Yes, sure. So according to me, there are multiple barriers, but the biggest would be being able to start right from the beginning, because postgraduates, mostly if it is MPhil, it's just like 9 months or 11-month course that's going to happen, and many are international students and students from different backgrounds. So just being able to come into the new culture, new university, and just adapting to Cambridge lifestyle itself is going to take quite some time, because I did face the same thing too. So there could be a lot of initiatives that I feel could, make them start from the right beginning and do not get into the zone of being stuck in just overwhelming experience, because there's just so many things that go on in Cambridge, and just to get to know all of them itself, it takes a lot of time. So I want to take initiatives that people can get to know better and be able to start right from the beginning, so they can enjoy the whole 11 months or complete experience there in here rather than starting from the second half or maybe once Lent term begins and Christmas when they understand the concept. So start right from the beginning. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the floor?
So participation means many things, right? So if you look at this, I must admit, so as a Hustings, I would expect more people. So clearly, there is a question of participation I think we're not getting right. So what did you do to engage people so they can participate in this process? Important now, right?
I'm sorry, just to get your question right, do you mean participation in the event that's happening today or in general?
In general.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
Oh, yeah, sure. So for me, participation is mainly an individual thing, but then people do need to get a little bit of external push to be able to, feel comfortable to, participate in any kind of an event or general gathering, be it like education or be it in general. So I want to give that extra kind of comfort that people find it, especially, for example, to just state in societies. There are so many societies available at Cambridge, but if you see at this point of time, most of them are dominated by the undergraduate students, and the participation from postgraduates is pretty less. So the reason for this could be because of curriculum design or just because the access to information. So there are a lot of things which I kind of personally found out from peer experiences or from just talking to people. They had like different reasons for why we're not able to, actually feel comfortable to get into participating. So I want to focus on those pointers where people actually get comfortable to attend events or be it other things and get that additional extra push that they're looking for. So,
yeah.
Yes, so participation, like I mentioned, for postgraduates can mean a lot of things because some of them, not most, see extracurriculars as kind of an extra burden to whatever is happening. For those that have 9 months, June is the dissertation time, so they want to get it done with. So for trying to get through to them, I hope to be using like the academic representatives to someone who they already know, telling them about these opportunities and why they should attend and why it is important for their voices to be heard. So I hope to reach out to a broader group of students through the academic representatives and other groups around them.
Thank you very much. So next pre-submitted question. How do you make sure you are representing both master's students and PhD students equally? Cynthia, do you want to go first?
Yes. So, from my experience, PhD students actually have more participation in postgraduate events than master's students. But how to make sure I am representing them is there is something that I currently do where before every big meeting, call for a virtual meeting with all departmental representatives to ask them, is there something you want to talk about? Is there something you want me to pass on for you? Even if it's just a departmental issue, I can just say, oh, this particular department is doing this. So that is how I plan to include them. And with postgraduates, the representatives know that for them to, if they have an issue, knowing that you are available and you are going to pass on whatever issue they have, it's already a big deal for them. So postgraduates may mean more than just masters, and I will try to include all of them by giving the opportunity for them.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I'm happy that you put that forward. So obviously, postgraduates just doesn't mean the MPhil students. It's definitely inclusive of the PhD students. So that's one of the main things that comes under like access, education, and participation, because just the inclusivity. And I'm a person who always pitches on inclusivity, and definitely it's something I would like to represent PhD students as well. And I have already have good interactions with PhD community members, and I do know some of their concerns, which I've already listed in my manifesto, be it from the bursaries for PhD, the kind of stipends they get. So they have some real concerns. Even though they're there for a longer time, I feel that they do have some concerns in participating in some of the societies, because even their access in societies is predominantly less when compared to participation. And when I did some interactions with them, the first-hand information that I got was because their conversations with the undergraduates haven't been like so inclusive, and I just want to break the gap or the wall that has been defined, and I'm already considering to include them, which is there in my manifesto. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Again, I'm going to open to the floor. Are there any floor questions? Ooh, one back. Yeah.
Hiya. So, like at the beginning of council this year, there were quite a lot of occasions where council wasn't for like postgraduate members. So potentially there are some barriers to postgraduates, and particularly the MCRs, from engaging in like the student union. Like, what do you think? What do you see the role of your role of engaging with MCRs or postgrads to kind of get them more involved in this, or how would you make it more unique?
So just to repeat for the sake of the live stream, we were asked what would you do to get more engagement with the SU from postgraduates, especially given things like low turnout at student council. Would you want to go?
Oh, yeah, sure. So according to me, that's a very good question. Thank you again. So as seen in my manifesto, this is already in my plan to streamline the SU access. I believe that more than you coming to the SU should be brought to you. So I want you guys to get this feeling where, you can just reach out like to SU, and SU is always there. It's a member of your own body, just like how an MCR or any other thing that your colleges, you feel so comfortable to just reach out to them and say, hey MCR, can you conduct this event for us? It's going to be very useful to us. That's something I feel really resonates with me, and I want SU to be something like that. So where we are not just something like a student union which is separate from you or your colleges, but we are a part of you, we belong to you. And I want you all to get that feeling, and that's what I would like to take initiatives for, by streamlining the way SU works, be able to be more approachable and just be there around you, easily accessible to you, so you can like pitch in whatever it is, be it the information, be it issues, concerns, and just in general, be there with you along your way. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So for me, I would want to establish like an informal way of communication between the SU and the MCRs, postgraduate and other bodies through a Teams chat, because it seems it's something that most students use, they are very conversant with. Through a Teams chat, representatives both from the MCR and from different societies and from different groups can easily reach out, and also it actually fosters collaboration amongst them to know themselves and know that this college and that college wants to collaborate. They know that the two MCR representatives are in this chat, and it's easy to kind of foster collaboration between them and inclusion for all the students.
Thank you very much. Our final pre-submitted question. So the role focuses on not only access but education. So what is your top priority for the education element? Cynthia, will you go first?
Yes, my top priority for the education would be to push for some issues that I've already heard about, like the reading week, to give students a week from, especially for postgraduate students, and for the PhD students, it will be for them it's feedback and how supervision plays out to them. So I want my representation to be how can the SU make Cambridge better and best for you? How do you think that this school can be able to cater to you as an individual, as a group? And for education, I think the best way I would be going about it is to push for the reading week, of course, in the general, but individually also reach out to representatives to know how best it will work out. Yeah.
So that's again an interesting question. So for me, education is one of the key factors that we are here for in the Cambridge. So that's one of the top things. And there are some serious concerns that I see, but in the top priority, I would split it into twofold. For the MPhil students, definitely to reduce the burnout, that would be my top priority, because as far as I've seen, there are multiple students who, due to different reasons, they're like facing burnout at the moment because of the short span, the tight schedules, just the deadline schedules. And in my own department, I could see that now it has improved where we can get extensions of the coursework submissions because of personal reasons and other things. But as an overall wide experience, I want to reduce the burnout. And coming to just PhD, there are multifold issues right now. Mainly, I would like where PhD students get like better access to like the supervision teams and better more interactions, because PhD is one thing where you have to find something. You don't have references. There's nothing available out there. At least for MPhil, we can refer, but PhD definitely to get more interactions with the guides, and these things should be my top focus. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. This is the final opportunity to questions from the floor. So, would anyone like to ask a question? Fergus.
Thank you very much. Could I ask a question about specifically housing and how you see your role into housing? Obviously, housing is a huge issue. It really affects postgraduates. We're often more exposed to the private market in Cambridge. Your kind of straightforward steps like gathering data. What would you lobby for or push for at a university or above the university level to make housing less of a massively challenging issue for students?
Yeah, sure. So housing is definitely a very important aspect. So I would reckon, being an international student myself, I know how challenging it can be. So to settle in a new place, and many students prefer college housing at the moment. The main reason is because it becomes more convenient. So one main challenging is not every student is able to satisfied with the college housing. So first thing, I would like to improve that, because because everything can be taken care by the college, like be it a quick issue with regard to housing, it can be addressed by college. So if every student can get satisfied with the university accommodation given by colleges, that should be my top priority. And second, yes, of course, not everybody can eventually get it, but I will try the maximum to push it. But for those who were not able to, definitely private housing accommodations, especially like for PhD students who like to or prefer to stay in the private accommodations, I would like to prepare a channelized way in which they can access the available housing things and ensure the rates are not exorbitant. Because when you go to private housing with the current inflation, it could pitch very high. So I want to bring some regulations with respect to that, which helps them with financing the housing. Yeah.
Thank you. Since I forgot to do this, for the sake of this live stream, the question was, what would you do for housing, particularly for postgraduates? Cynthia, please go ahead.
Yes, so for housing, I think what I'm going to do for housing is to work with MCR and colleges, not just to, I remember when I was moving here, we're told on the website, oh, you can use these links or that link. So it's not just about giving a student a link, that for an outside accommodation, I would work with MCRs and colleges to try to get fine-tune a list for each college to have this list waiting for their students. So when you get your admission and there is no college accommodation available for you, the college should be able to come in to say, these are closed environs, private accommodations we have. This is the kind of payment plans they have, and this, I think that will help students, especially international students and students who do not reside in UK, to know, okay, I'm coming to this college, this building is close to this college, and this is the kind of budget I would have.
So, that is the end of the questions. I'm going to ask each candidate to give a 1 minute final statement. Can we begin with Cynthia, please?
Yes, my final statement should be to vote for me. I will work and do my best to make sure that every student has the best Cambridge experience, both educationally and otherwise. Thank you.
Hey guys, please do check my manifesto, and if you'd really like the pointers that I have mentioned so far and whatever I'm listed, I would be happy if you could just vote for me. And I do definitely promise that whatever I did say, I would action upon it and bring my experience from previous things. And it's not just about what I've listed, it could go beyond it, because I'm a person who's always open to voices. So it's going to be your voice and our Cambridge, which as I stated in my slogan. So whatever you are facing, to work on it and make your experience better is my motto, and that's why I would like to run for this role. So please do consider me as a candidate for this role. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both our candidates. There are 2 other candidates in this election, Christian Sapida, who was not here tonight, and also Rio for nominations. Thank you very much to both candidates.
Thank you.
And we will now move on to... Okay. We will now move on to Undergraduate Access, Education and Participation Officer. If the candidates could please come to the table. Welcome. Right. If you're both ready, I will ask you to make your opening statement. Katie, you want to go first?
Yes, sure. Yeah. Sorry, 1 minute is really short. Hi, I'm Katie and I'm a third year geographer at Sydney, Sussex. I'm running because I believe that access should not end with an offer or even an acceptance. I really do believe that the truly support all students, irrespective of background, ongoing accessibility is essential for their continuous participation and success throughout their university experience. Hence why my slogan is access beyond admission. My policies include an SU pantry for students, which would give free food to any student who needed it, because I just don't believe that shopping should have to be a barrier to being a student. Standardised prep week. Standardised prep week, which means that all freshers would get a freshers week before the start of term where they get to learn study skills, meet their peers, and also just kind of get a bit more into university life to give them all that head start we need. It's also been proven to close the attainment gap. Phone died. Reducing JCR workloads by taking on more and more work for the students on JCRs, and also giving them templates and more resources so it makes their work a lot easier and quicker. Collating a database of opportunities, so liaising with school liaison officers and more. I'll talk about it later.
Do we clap or do we not?
Go ahead, Sam.
Right. Hi there, everyone. I'm Sam, and with any luck, fingers crossed, I'll be your next Undergraduate Access, Education and Participation Officer. No offence, Katie. For 3 years, I've been working in student societies to make practical change in people's lives, and I believe the SU is the best place in Cambridge to do that. That involves fighting to make sure lecture recordings return for all students, implementing music grants for students who want to hone their skills to make sure the size of your enthusiasm, not the size of your wallet, is the only thing that matters, making sure the attainment gap is closed, whatever your background, and working to get arms companies off campus. These are the cornerstones of a programme that is practical, meaningful, and doable. Let's go eastward to a brighter future. Let's make sure the SU remains responsible to its students, and let's empower it to deliver for them.
Thank you. We will begin with our first pre-submitted question. What experience do you as a candidate have that demonstrates your commitment to access and well-being participation in Cambridge, and how will that apply to your role? Should go with Sam first.
Okay, well, I have worked, as I've said there, I've spent rather worryingly, I suppose, 3 years doing this sort of thing. I've done it in student societies, I've done it in politically orientated student societies. I have spent time in the Cambridge University Labour Club making sure that the events we do are available to anybody in both a physical sense of access and a sense of the financial barriers. We make sure that when we go campaigning, people are not blocked by the cost of the tickets they take. We make sure that when we go on trips, there is an access budget for people who want to apply for it, who need that support. I've also worked with, say it quietly, the Cambridge Union more recently, to make sure that double-digit access memberships are maintained as a core part of the agenda of the organisation. And I think these things are practical initiatives that have made a difference for students.
Thank you very much. Katie?
I spent a worrying amount of time at this university doing access work, probably more than I've done doing geography, to be honest. I was the new JCR access officer from my first year, and it was something I've always really wanted to do. Access officers helped me get here. I wanted to give back and do that. I created the food bank at Sydney, so we have a food bank in our JCR which is constantly restocked, and any student is welcome to take whatever they want from it so that no one goes hungry. That's kind of the inspiration for my latest policy. I created the I created the financial guide, which gave students kind of financial information, especially freshers, about where to access bursaries, budgeting, and tips. Because when you come to uni, I don't think that it's just that. And there's a million other things. Close swap. I did close swap. I did that. I also, unfortunately, same as Sam, I was Sam's predecessor, access to the Cambridge Union. I created the foundation year membership that meant that all foundation year students can have access to the union for a very, very reduced price so that we can diversify the voices in the chamber. I also created a whole load of new access initiative resources. Yep. Sorry, I'm not very good at this.
Thank you very much. We will now move to questions from the floor. Would anyone like to ask a question? Not seeing anyone? Oh, two sudden hands have gone. I think I saw Harvey's go up first. So,
yeah, sorry, Harvey. So I guess my question is about, obviously there are so many things wrong with how accessible university is and how hard it is to be a student here, and there are things that we should campaign for changing in the university. I'm wondering how you see the SU as supporting students' access needs to kind of fill that gap or campaign for change.
for the sake of the live stream, the question is, how do you see the SU supporting students with their accessibility needs? Katie, go first.
So I know everyone tonight has said it, and I think everyone here believes that the SU should be doing more to kind of to students rather than waiting for them to approach us. I think we can all agree on that here. But yeah, personally for me, I think that every college has an access officer. I think that these access officers need some kind of more direction and funding and stuff like that. So I'm much more happy to go into colleges, see what they're doing really well, take it out and put it into other colleges. I think that's the best way to do it. Like, if there was some kind of better way for me to get my food bank into other colleges, I would have definitely done that. But there's just so many barriers. So it's just increasing communication, getting the support to the JCR access officer. It's one of the biggest roles on the JCR, and colleges often ask you to do loads of stuff for them, loads of outreach stuff. You've got pressure from the SU for the shadowing scheme, and you also have students that are like, it's one of the most demanding roles. So yeah, so much on you. I want to help the access officers. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Sam?
Well, I think the SU as an organisation is the students' representation at the highest levels of discussion within the university. And in that sense, the SU will always have a major role to play in terms of defending students' interests. And it can do that, first of all, simply by raising those interests and continuing to raise those interests at the university level. That's, I think, how you solve some of the more structural problems. Something like the bursary, which has not risen at the rate at which the things that people who are on the bursary would be buying with it have risen. So you sort that, in my view, or you make ways to sort that by thinking creatively about how you both maximise student engagement with a campaign to raise it, and how you then leverage student pressure on the university through the variety of channels you have to improve it. That would be a major issue. I also agree with Katie in the sense that JCRs have to work closer together where a good scheme is implemented to implement it more widely.
Thank you very much. Moving again to a pre-submitted question. The role focuses not only on access but education, so what is your top priority for the education element? We'll go first to Sam.
My top priority for the education element, and I highlighted it in my opening statement, is to make sure that every student who chooses to can access recorded lectures. Now, in the subject I do history and politics, yes, I know. And in history and politics, we had our lectures taken off recording, which has made it much more difficult for students more generally, but also if you have access needs, if getting in to your lectures every day when you need to get to them is a problem, making sure that you get the information you may never be able to source otherwise is crucial. And I think the only way you can make sure that happens is by making sure it's standardised online for everybody who wishes to take it.
Katie?
So education-wise, I think my biggest policy is probably something to do with the free diagnosis, free access to private diagnosis. So I'm dyslexic, severely dyslexic, but I never got properly diagnosed, and my school didn't have the resources until second year of uni, and I come up with repeated barriers, and like college didn't really know where to signpost you to get the money, and that's why it took until second year. So I believe, kind of in the same line as Sam, that lecture recordings should be available, and then people aren't getting the help they need because they can't access a diagnosis. So with more diagnoses, your department can offer you the support you need, lecture recordings, extra time, rest breaks, and so many people at university I meet have probably undiagnosed learning disorders, and I just want everyone to be able to access the help they need, because it's literally changed my life since being able to do that. So.
Thank you very much. Again, we're going to move to the floor. I've seen 2 questions over there. I'm going to go to Sarah.
You both spoke about lecture recordings. I was wondering how aware you are of the issues that currently surround lecture recordings, what the barriers are, and how you plan to tackle the issue differently to actually make some progress with it when so many practicing conservation officers have alleged it and not lying about it.
So, to repeat the question for the stream, what are you going to do differently to campaign for lecture capture where other AEPs have failed?
Is it me first?
It is you first. Go ahead.
So that's why I think my policy is a bit different to Sam, because of the diagnosis. When you have an SSD, there is like a requirement for you to record. So I did a subtopic. I originally was not in the capacity to record, and the department provided the recording equipment to the lecture hall because I needed it. So with these diagnoses, you then have legal ways to get around these recording barriers, and you're always going to get stubborn old lecturers that want people to turn up to their lectures. This is the problem. Lecture turnout in person, I do believe going to lectures in person is really important, but if you have a genuine access need, which many people do, but it's just not diagnosed, then once you get that diagnosis, you get your SSD and you have general verification to be able to access those lecture recordings.
Well, in a lot of ways I agree with Katie. My general perspective, though, is that there are so many people that, in my view, can fall through the cracks of sort of access provision when access provision is set out in the way it currently is. And, I'm in the process of an access measurement. It's my 6th attempt at it. And you get to this point where these things seem to be set up to make it as difficult as possible for you to get the support you need. So I think a way of getting back to a standard that we are not that far from, I mean, this is not a standard that is unattainable, is I think you think about the way in which, again, it's about mobilising student support. It's about making sure that students know what the situation is, know what the solutions are. You allow students to contribute to the formation of solutions, and you create that mass movement to get the change we deserve.
Thank you very much. Moving back to pre-submitted questions. So this one is, the previous UCU marking boycott left many students missing out on their job offers, PhD/master's offers, and students from disadvantaged backgrounds were hit especially worse. How would you, in your role as AEP, support students if another UCU strike/marking boycott is called? Katie? No, Sam.
Yeah, you go first. Well, the reason, or at least one of the major reasons, one of the foremost reasons why the UCU boycott went on for so long and became such a hindrance to students who were graduating was because there was no negotiation. And ultimately, what we have to do as the voice of students at the highest level of university discussion is work to agitate to make sure that a negotiation in situations like that is opened as quickly as possible, because that's how you resolve a dispute. We can work around, and we should work around, the situations when the dispute is ongoing. But the way in which we ultimately solve this problem is by making sure the university, which can resolve these disputes, as it proves, solves that dispute as quickly as possible by entering into negotiations with university staff as quickly as possible.
I very much agree with Sam at the university-wide level, but I do also kind of hold this opinion that not everyone is some kind of political body who wants people to protest and do things. These people were really concerned that they might have anywhere to live once they graduate because they didn't have a job. These people like that. And so I think there's Sam's element of it, and of course, as in my role high up in the SU, I would be putting forth to negotiate. But you also need to look at the individual student and their welfare. And I think, honestly, like bursary support, better communication because I know a lot of third years who were just so confused all the time. They didn't know if their master's offers were coming through. It was down to department, it was down to individuals, it was down to random emails and stuff like that. Some kind of standardized communication from every department, I pressure onto that. So at least they know what's going on. And then negotiation side, individual welfare side, and then hopefully even getting some kind of fund together or something to make sure these students are safe. Because not everyone really cares what's going on in the higher up of the uni. Some people just want their degree and want to continue on with their lives. So.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go for the final question from the floor. Are there any final questions? First.
Can I come up and ask the question? As in rather than have it repeated in much of the form of
Yes, you're welcome to do so.
Thanks so much, Cody. My question was basically about the shadowing scheme. You both mentioned it, both aware of it. It's a big thing that SU does each year, maybe part of the access work SU does. Is there anything you want to change about it? And is there anything that you think works well or less well currently that you as the underlying team would be really kind of like leading on, working on with the SU team for?
Katie?
This is one of kind of my big policies reforming the shadowing scheme. So I took Sydney out of the shadowing scheme in my time as access officer after very long communications and negotiations with the Sydney SLO and the admissions team. They gave me money to run open things. I ran 4 of the open days, which was kind of my negotiation for them, because legally it puts students in a lot of danger. And now, because of the legal danger it puts students in, if colleges can't provide extra rooms, because colleges provide extra rooms, City is now excluded from this programme. We have resources we could offer, we just can't offer the extra rooms. So it's excluding colleges. I'm not the only one. I know Churchill also took themselves out of it. So if you can't offer the extra rooms. I also had a really cool conversation with someone the other day about, they were at Hill College and they said that all the events were central and they had to commute so much further. It took up so much extra time, and also the fact that the food tickets were only given to the students and not them, and they said they would normally cook at home but they had to eat out with the students and it was costing them extra money. So there's so many things wrong with it. Personally, I think it needs completely taking apart and putting back together instead of fixing. I don't think it's really fit for purpose anymore. I think with the money and the resources that we have, we could put together so much better. Thank you.
Sam?
Look, I agree, not to be too harmonious here, but I agree with all the points Katie has raised there, fundamentally. I think you have to have a shadowing scheme that can respond to the basic needs, not just of the students, but as has just been indicated, of the law. You have to have a scheme that can do that, and that can do that for as many colleges as possible. I think beyond those fundamentals that Katie has added, I think there is a merit in making sure that schemes like this are as targeted as possible. I think a further expansion into communities that are usually the most underprivileged, both in the context of British society and underrepresented in the context of the university, I think is fundamental in terms of how we deal with this sort of thing, because it's about making sure that people who would not normally get the opportunities to live amongst Cambridge students, to work with Cambridge students, to see what Cambridge life is like, get that opportunity and therefore feel empowered to go on and seize it.
Thank you very much. That will be the end of questions, so I'll now give you 1 minute to summarise. Sam, please go ahead.
Oh, goodness. Well, I have to disclose both to everyone in the room and to everybody on the live stream, I did not know I was just going to be asked to do that. So, I'll carry on. I mean, the basic premise, I would return to what I'd said in my opening speech. What we have heard today, I think, from both me and Katie, are proper plans with how to put access, participation, education forefront at the SU's agenda. I believe you should trust me to do that, and I believe you should trust me to do that because this is the stuff I have been doing. It is the stuff that I know how to do it. I believe the plan I have is both reasonable and meaningful. And I think striking that balance for students is what really makes the most for students, and it's how students can make the most of their time at this university.
Thank you very much. And Katie?
Not to sound like a broken record and repeat Sam once again, but once again, I know actions are not just words are kind of important to you. I've done a hell of a lot in my 3 years here. Once again, I said much more than I've ever done geography, trying to make this place as accessible as possible. I'd love to have the privilege of doing that for like a whole year. Society work is one of my favourite things to do, and this is just society work for a year. So that'd be fantastic for me. I want to build on my point earlier about it's kind of really good to have the whole political perspective, but it's just the individual. I know lots of students here who have gone through incredibly hard circumstances and have ended up here, and they don't particularly care about the wider scope of things. They just want money in their pockets. They want to be fed. They want to be able to access the things that they need, and they want to be able to feel as equal as a student who's come from an incredibly privileged background. And I believe that I can create that environment where that can be possible. So yeah, check out my manifesto. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At the end, as As always, I'm required to remind you that Reopen Nominations is a candidate in this election. We will now move to a 10-minute access break. Thank you very much.
Guys, all right, hello. We're going to carry on. We're going to move on. Excuse me, everyone. Come on, settle down. Settle down. Sorry. Anyway, so we're going to move on to our penultimate race, which is the president brackets postgraduate. So if there's two candidates for that come up to the front, that'd be fantastic, and then we'll get started shortly. Come on up. Feel free to get water. I don't have anything else to offer, but just water.
Let's take some tea.
Fantastic. All right. Would you two like to sort of introduce yourselves very briefly, 10 seconds, and then we'll get started on opening statements?
Sure. I'm Shumoli Vadachaji. I'm a MSc student in sustainability and leadership. I'm also at FITS, so FITS daily basically.
Thank you. Hello everyone. I am Varish Pratap. I'm your current postgraduate president, and I'm aspiring to have another tenure. So before joining the Cambridge SU as a sabbatical officer, I was pursuing MPhil in Energy Technologies at Engineering Department, and during that time,
yeah. So we're about to move on to our opening statement. So you've got a minute now to say your piece. I guess anything in particular that you want to highlight. I'll just put the timer here.
So hello everyone. Again, I am Varish. So before joining the Cambridge SU, I worked in my college MCR as an elected treasurer, and at my engineering department as an elected academic rep. So during my this tenure, I have been working mainly on the cost of living issue and exploring the options. How can we make Cambridge students' life more vibrant?
Fantastic, thank you. And Somali, if you'd like to make your opening statement.
Sure. So obviously, you may have seen my manifesto. So there are really four things that I'm standing on. One is we have to make an inclusive Cambridge, an inclusive community, and I think there are miles to go on that. My second point is we need to work better to look after all of our students and our colleagues, because I think mental and physical health, the total well-being, is taking a huge knock, and obviously none of these are helped by the cost of living crisis we are going through. I think students are disproportionately impacted by that. And finally, I think climate action is the biggest problem that we are facing. It's a generational problem we are facing, so we absolutely have to do something about it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the first pre-asked question that I've got here, which is, what will you do to address the cost of living for postgraduate students and ensure that no matter what college you're at, students have an equal share and access of resources, funding and finances? So would you like to begin?
My favorite.
So it's absolutely true, and also depending on the college you are, probably the experience is quite different. And generally, also remember, when you're talking about postgraduate students, there are students who are full-time students, part-time students. It's really a varied experience. So some of the things that can be done, I think, some of the other candidates already mentioned that. I think access to classes is an important one, and there are great technologies there. Simply, recording, for example, and there are other sort of education technology which I'm surprised that are not being used. So that's probably clearly one access area. Other is, of course, integrating the postgraduate students. I think they're more isolated. The cohorts are much smaller. So obviously, I think there is a lot can be done to build those communities. But the other problems are actually very similar in UG and PG. For example, housing is one of the biggest challenges. And a lot of postgraduate students actually live in private houses, so that's a problem as well.
Thank you very much. And Varish, same question on the cost of living.
Thank you. I would say experience varies for the students in different colleges. If we look into the cost of living thing, so food and accommodation covers up a lot of their spendings. So on the accommodation side, I am currently working with the university and the colleges to explore the options. If PG students, and I believe that scheme will benefit part-time students and UG students equally as well. If they can find housing in the private market, so it will benefit students from all across the colleges. Second thing on food, prices do vary across the colleges, and accessibility also varies across the colleges. So last week, I had a discussion inside the Postgraduate Tutors Committee to share the official data regarding the cost and the accessibility related options. And in the Easter term, I'm looking forward to push a paper that can increase accessibility to food.
Thank you very much. Move on to if there's any questions from the floor or online, please put up your hand or put it in the chat, and if not, then I'll move on to my second question that I've got down here, which is... Oh, there's a question. So sorry. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's already been mentioned today that postgraduate turnout at council is normally the limiting factor for quorum. So that sort of indicates that there's a, postgrads don't want to interact with the SU or aren't interacting for some reason with the principal decision-making body of it. Do you guys have solutions for getting more postgrads just through the doors of the SU and interacting, making sure that the SU does represent postgrads?
Yeah. So just for the live stream, basically postgrads aren't turning up in sort of the numbers that we like to SU things in general, including council. How will you improve that engagement with the postgrad community? We'll go in reverse order, so I think for each first.
So I mean, unfortunately, we witnessed a few student council meetings going incoherent, and that was due to the absence of some PG students. But if we look into the data after those meetings, there were occasions where PG students outnumbered the UG, the PG representative outnumbered the UG students. So I think Cambridge is a busy town. Cambridge is a busy space. So it's good to remind them or nudge them not at the 4 o'clock. Remind them on the same day so that they are having a meeting. We are having a student council meeting. Second thing, giving the option of giving the flexibility of hybrid mode. It has increased the participation. So these are the things which are working, and we will definitely explore other options.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So, this is the question.
So obviously at the tactical level, everything that Varish says I agree with. However, I think there is probably a bigger question is about the belonging. So to a large degree, a lot of postgraduate students stay in Cambridge for a shorter period. So I think, and also giving them the agency, it's actually their problem, is their university, their student union. So they need to own up to it. So communication, engagement, and also I think in almost in any body, we seem to think we know everything and try to do things to them rather than doing that, getting postgraduates to participate and really provide solution and have even actually said, let them to voice their problem and collaboratively work with the SU to provide solution.
Brilliant, thank you very much. In that case, yeah, I'll move on to my next question here, which is how does each candidate believe that the university should relate to the fossil fuel industry? Will you campaign for, what will you campaign for in spaces like University Council when it comes to the climate crisis? So we'll go this way, if you will. So Simoli, if you'd like to start.
So I think this is probably one of the things I have quite strong opinion, and I'll be direct. I won't sit on the fence on this one. It's absolutely, it's morally wrong and quite unconscionable that even today, majority of the funding of the colleges are connected to fossil fuel, and even arms industry. So I think it's just untenable. And I think, and there is obviously some work has been done in the form of topping report, etc. We need to take those recommendations and ensure that those are implemented. There should be a pathway that Cambridge, as one of the best places of learning and thought leadership, should show the way how we can divorce ourselves from this fossil fuel funding. We have to be the change we want to be. We just cannot keep on doing the lip service on this one.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And Varish, same question on the fossil fuel industry and climate crisis.
Thank you. I mean, I would say Cambridge University is a global university, and it should lead by the example. And we do already have passed motions at SU level to ensure that university cuts all the ties from the fossil fuel industry, and we have a similar motion on demilitarization as well. So, during my time, I have been pushing these things through the University Council and when required in the business committee as well. So Students' Union is working on these things.
Thank you very much. Now back to the floor, if there's any questions. There, I see one at the back, if that's all right. If you just, say it and I'll repeat it as best I can.
Mainly a question for Bruce, it's obviously up to you whether you want to allow it or not, but obviously because you've already been postgraduate president for a year for each, do you think that you, a lot of what you're saying is about cost of living and doing things for cost of living, but that seems to be a lot of what you've been talking about this year. And do you think you've done enough this year to justify going for the election?
Thank you.
I'm just going to, so the way we're going to do this, Varish, feel very free to answer. And Smolly, I'd like you to obviously not answer on Varish's record, but talk about what you've done in the past that can help you in this situation. That's the way. So Varish, go for it.
Thank you. It's an interesting question. If we look into the Cambridge perspective, it's a collegiate university, and to be honest, it's a bureaucratic setup. So if you have asked me the same question in January, I would say I don't see any development. But last fortnight, I see things moving on the rent guarantee scheme. So it was a good move. A PTC committee, it's not easier to get 31 representatives from all the colleges to agree on the same one thing. So they did agree to explore the options on improving the accessibility to food for the non-member students. So things are working, but if we take some examples from the previous work, Cambridge SU and other elected representatives have been working so hard on Reading Week, but things are yet to be delivered. It has taken years. And my counterpart, Fergus, has been doing amazing work on the free prescription thing. He did it during his time at JCR. So currently he is implemented this scheme in a couple of colleges, but obviously not all the colleges. So I would say Cambridge is a complex system, and experience can help you to accelerate the changes.
Thank you very much. And as I said, Simone, if you just like to talk from your prior experience, but also about sort of push that into the future.
Sure. So I actually, although not Cambridge, I did my graduation in a collegiate university, and which is actually much more spread out, if you like. So I think if you think that it's difficult to do it in Cambridge, be my guest. Now, and we were going through exactly similar thing. It was during the financial crisis and all of that. And so, having said that, there are some tangible things you can do. I would say first is obviously housing, and there are things that can be done here. I know in UK we don't have rent control, but for example, if you work with the local authorities, classification in housing stock, so it's earmarked for students in a university town, is absolutely possible to do. It has been done before, so you can do that. Food bank, yes, it is 2024. It's unbelievable, but if that's what we need to do, we will, absolutely will. And for students from all colleges, and free prescription, free mental health access. That's probably one of the biggest intervention we can make. We absolutely will, if we need to.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So that was a question from the floor. I'll move back to my list of questions here, which is, how would you go about fostering a supportive and safe environment in the university for students, especially those who are affected by international conflicts or other international events? So we're going to go this way. So Simone, if you'd like to start.
So part of this is probably a bigger question about the diversity and inclusion. So I mean, it is a diverse place, and it's not just international students, by the way. Obviously, you have from UK the students that come here. They come from very different, diverse and ethnic background, and there are strong opinions around that. Now, I think, of course, in Cambridge, we'd like to keep a safe space that people can air their views, but at the same time, I think we need to take the temperature down on the adversarial context of it. And obviously, it doesn't happen when, in wider media and politics, I mean, these are being inflamed. But I think we have some commonality of purpose. I think we focus on how we are different. We do not focus on how we are similar. And I think SU can be a great place to engage in this broader dialogue of what brings us together, rather than what divides us.
Brilliant, thank you. Rish, same question on international conflicts and creating a safe environment.
I mean, it's a tough question. I would say I have been supporting many of the societies so that they can feel more inclusive at Cambridge. But in context to international conflict or something like that, I would ensure, and it was ensured this year, that they are getting required support. So, I mean, we extended the resources that were accessible at college, university, or at other levels. And as SU is a charity, so I'll be very much mindful that we are delivering the very first objective, ensuring the welfare and interest of the students. But I'll ensure that we are working within our defined charitable objectives.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We'll move to any questions from the floor or from online. Fergus.
Thank you very much. The coming year is going to be a really difficult one for students in terms of hate speech on campus, in terms of how free speech has been weaponized by the government and through the government UFS to target universities, colleges, and now students' unions. What approach will you take that ensures the SU remains compliant with the law, but is also mindful, as much as it can be, of protecting students from what speech that will now be legal and speech that will now be sort of enforced on campuses? What steps will you take within the law, as we all must remain, to protect students from the worst parts of what the government is doing?
So just in case the live stream didn't get that, I'm going to summarise as best I can, which is effectively there's new legislation coming in which will regulate free speech on campuses. Some things that were previously able to sort of not happen will happen. Is sort of putting it very broadly. Effectively, the question is, what are you guys going to do? What steps are you going to take, obviously within the law, to ensure both that free speech is protected and also that students feel safe and supported, sort of similar to the last question. So, which way should we go before? This way. So we'll come back towards me. So, Rish, if you want to go first.
I would say, this issue is quite complex because things are not clear, and because we are Cambridge, so we may get targeted by some parties for their vested interest or just to create some media news and all these things. So I'll ensure, university is quite supportive on this matter. So I'll first ensure that we are, because in our internal team we don't have any legal expert. So we will ensure that we can seek some support from them. Second thing, we do have a society that does work on pro bono basis. It's Cambridge Law Society, something like that. So I'll see if someone from, a group of people from them can volunteer on some issues, and if needed, we will approach the external parties as well to ensure that we are working or we are balancing in a perfect manner.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And same question for you, Simone.
So I think from the legal perspective, it's very clear what is unlawful and which you cannot do. So if any speech, hate speech at that, if falls outside the law, that's quite clear. But in majority of these cases, there is always a gray area, which is actually not quite really deliberated by the law. So the best way to do that is, obviously we have all of these colleges, they're the JCRs and MCRs. What we need to do, engage with them and put together at least some sort of a guideline that we agree on. And if that need be, if we need to put that to a referendum or vote or whatever that is through all of these democratic bodies, we will do that. And we agree to that, and we essentially try to implement that. So if it is falls out of those guidelines, we need to have also some measures that we can take to prevent that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I've got nothing left on my list. If there's any last minute questions before we move to our closing speeches, brilliant. So we'll close. Gosh, I'm all messed up. I think this way, if that's all right. So, Simoli, if you'd like to close, you've got up to a minute to do that.
So, as I mentioned earlier, by the way, I mean, of course, slightly unprepared because I didn't know, just for record. But what I said is exactly that. So, first is what we can do tangibly and what are the interventions we can do to make the lives of students better. Whether that's the welfare, that's experience, creating community, connecting people, try to alleviate the cost of living crisis as much as we can. Whether that is, as I mentioned, if we need to create a food bank, we will. If we need to create a clothes bank, we will. If we need to create free prescription is already, I think, something available, so we will. We will, I think, also engage with the university to look at the option that how we can have a clear pathway that we don't need to depend on the funding from the arms and fossil fuel industry. And finally, I think we need to create a culture of support, meaning if you need support, please speak up and support will be there for you. Essentially, we have to say, we have got your back.
Thank you very much. And Rish, your closing statement.
Thank you. I would say, like last year, cost of living and making Cambridge students' life more vibrant will be my two key focus areas. So I have been working on them, and now for past few days, I am receiving some significant developments on those things. I look forward to leverage my experience that I gained as your president, or as MCR member, or as an academic rep, to make sure things are delivered in an accelerated manner in coming days, and I utilize the context that I build within the university or in the city council, so that effective policies and measures are put in place well in time and effectively. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As always, I'm obliged to remind you that there is a third candidate here, which is reopen nominations. But other than that, you have Varish and Simoli. So, can we all give a round of applause to the two candidates? And we'll move on now. Thank you very much. And we'll move on now to the undergraduate presidents. I believe we have 3 candidates, 2 of which are here. No, 2 candidates. What? 2. Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. 3 candidates, 2 of which are here. I've got that. Right. So
Just to pour myself water.
Go on. If you do, I will.
I feel like we're fancy people making speeches.
All right. Let's get started. So, welcome to our final husting of the day. Yes, so as I said, there are 3 non-Ron candidates for this position. They are Sam Hutton, Sarah Anderson, and not able to make it sadly today is Hamad Chowdhury. So, I think we'll start with opening statements, if that's all right from you guys.
Introductions.
You can, yes, sorry, of course.
Sorry.
Feel free to introduce yourself on 5-10 seconds of just sort of who you are.
So my name's Sarah. I am a 4th year classicist at Fitz, and I'm running for undergrad president, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm also running for undergrad president. I'm Sam. I'm a third year. I do earth sciences, and I'm at Selwyn. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Subject level.
It's fine. You did.
You said.
Oh, did I? Oh, good.
If we go this way, let's say for opening statements, then yeah, you have a minute to tell us who you are and what you're here for.
Cool. I apologise for having my laptop here. I've got ADHD, so keeping thoughts in track is not always my greatest thing, so hopefully this will help. My name's Sarah. I've been JCR president at FITS for the last year, so I know basically a lot of the things that you deal with as a student representative within colleges, and I'm hoping that I can take that experience and bring it to the SU. My slogan is bringing the SU to you, because I think that at the moment the SU expects you to come to them with your problems rather than coming out to you, and I think that my knowledge as a JCR representative means that I know the issues that students are caring about most right now. I am running my campaign on changes that on issues that I've seen over my 4 years here, and they are changes that I would like to see made and that I know are achievable. That's things like resits, wellbeing improvements, and training for rent negotiations, which is something that as a JCR president you have to do and is really scary.
Thank you very much. And Sam, if you'd like to take your minute.
Sure. So yeah, I'm running on a platform of the fact that the SU is broken. The SU is not currently a representative body, and it does not work for its students. That's the problem. And it keeps promising things, and it fails to deliver on them. I've been a representative within the SU for the last year in the ethical affairs campaign. So that was working on stuff like fossil fuel, getting rid of fossil fuel funding, cutting arms ties. But I know that the SU's decision-making process is fundamentally broken as well. So my platform is this. I'm going to reform the way that the SU works. I'm also going to deliver on some of the promises that we've had, and only the ones that are achievable, ones that have made tangible progress, like the Reading Week, which was approved by General Board last year. And also, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to deliver on the Reading Week, and I'm going to make sure that student spaces are available. So that includes an SU bar in this building, which currently has empty rooms. I will take some of you there afterwards if you want. There is an empty bar sitting downstairs that we could turn into an SU bar. So that's what I'm running on.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to questions, and we'll go in the reverse order for this question, which is, what would you do differently to the previous presidents who have all promised many of the things that are on both of your manifestos and failed to deliver on most of them, evidently? Is it disingenuous to run on policies that have in the past sort of had little chance of being enacted? And how will you sort of make sure that you succeed where previously there have been attempts and they failed? So a minute each going this way.
Yeah. So I actually, that would be the main criticism to leverage at my manifesto. You look at it and it looks like a wish list of things that can't happen. But I know that they can. Specifically, the two things that I'm offering that are the most quote-unquote unrealistic is the Reading Week, which we are currently undergoing a workload review. I can't remember what the university calls it, but there is a committee that is talking about what we need to do on workload, and it keeps the Reading Week got approved by General Board, which is the big university decision-making committee already. So this is something that is achievable and we're making concrete progress towards now. The other thing is an SU bar, which is also something that is currently being discussed by the university, is a reform of this building and the space that is here. There is spaces here that are empty, like the empty bar downstairs or the empty rooms all the way along there, that we could use for an SU bar, and the university has proposed those get turned into multi-purpose student spaces. So that's why I want to run on those policies, and I think we can deliver those.
Thank you very much. And same question for you, Sarah.
Yeah, I rather hope that my manifesto doesn't look the same as every other year. I think I do have a couple of things on there that haven't been promised before, like resits hasn't been mentioned by any SU reps that I know, but I think it is a super achievable promise. And also mental health support is not usually the focus of the President's manifesto, but I think it is the thing that the SU should be focusing on most. I haven't mentioned the Reading Week. I recognise that the referendum on it happened when I was a second year, which means that all current 3-year undergrads are going to be graduating, the people who voted for it. I think it's time that we go back to students and check what they actually want from it. The Reading Week would be a great idea. I did vote for it in second year, but I'm not quite sure that it's achievable. We don't have the support of academics. The UCU has never commented in favour of the Reading Week, and it's not the head of departments that are the people we need to talk to. It is the ordinary academics. We need to get their opinions. I think there's other ways of doing workload reform, which I've outlined a bit on my manifesto and comes from my experience as academic rep. specifically tripole-specific solutions that work for the students that are within those subjects, rather than enforcing big ideas that a lot of students either don't agree with or weren't around to be consulted on 2 years ago.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to any question from the floor. If there are any, that would be grand. Else we'll take you at the back.
So following quite a contested policy at last Student Council regarding vegan-based food SU events, where the accessibility of the policy was thoroughly debated and questioned, what steps would you would take to ensure that the SU you need is accessible to all students?
Just to repeat that, basically last SU Council there was a motion particularly on vegan food where the accessibility for disabled students was debated quite a lot. How will you ensure that sort of accessibility, how will the SU ensure that accessibility remains a priority? Is that sort of quite well summarised? Okay, we'll go this way, I think. So,
yeah, I was incredibly disappointed by that motion at last SU Council. I was particularly disappointed by the fact that we heard from the chair of the Disabled Students Campaign, and still the room voted to pass those motions. We should be taking disabled students' concerns very seriously, and as their elected representative, the Disabled Student Campaign is the people to go to for those concerns. I hope that with all motions, I have a good knowledge of how motions work, and with all motions, if it relates to operational practice, it has to go through to the trustee board first, and I hope that the trustee board will recognise that this is an accessibility issue and it might not be able to get through. Obviously that seems undemocratic, but accessibility here is the far more important issue, and I'm not sure that Student Council is the place to be having such important conversations if it leads to outcomes like this.
Thank you very much, and same question for you, Sam.
Cool, yeah, so I think there are two parts to this. I think the first thing is that at the last council, the motion was not about turning the university vegan, it was about providing plant-based food at SU events and SU internal things. And there was a decision there that we needed to reform this. I mean, if anyone has been to SU Council, for example, you know that the food there is completely inaccessible already, and the only way to solve that is to email the council chair. That is, absolutely, we can't be having that. And the motion did say that we need to be providing adjustments, and that any adjustments to all disabled students who needed them should be provided under that motion. The second thing is about sort of more broadly that policy, and I was incredibly surprised to find that students voted on that, and that's what all students voted on. I think that's surprising, and we need to take meaningful steps on that. So last year I brought a motion to council that was making sure that we consulted disabled students on every step of the way while that policy has been implemented. We heard from disabled students outside of the Disabled Students Campaign who were at that last council as well, and they spoke on both sides. So,
thank you very much. We will move on to my second question. No, we won't, because that is that question. We'll move on to my third question, which is what are the practical tools the SU should use to defend its members, and how will you ensure the SU acts by the values it claims guide its mission? I presume by defend its members it doesn't mean sort of militarily. I presume it sort of means from sort of hate speech, from being hounded by the media, things that we've seen in the past that affect students. We'll go back towards me. So Sam, if you're happy to start with that.
Yeah, so upholding values of the SU, defending its members. I think there's been an incredible sort of surge of transphobia and racism and a whole load of bigotries purported by people who sort of are claimed to be legitimate academics, even though you take any look at their research output and it's just incredibly untrue. Nathan Coffness recently in the philosophy department, several transphobic speakers invited by certain fellows at Keys, and I think the SU needs to be doing more on that. I spearheaded several protests against transphobic speakers, and I think that the SU should, especially through the LGBT campaign and the Ethical Affairs campaign, should be supporting those actions whenever they happen, so that we can make sure that it's made clear that as the SU we don't agree with people like this on campus, and we think that them being here is actually materially harming students, and it is, right? It's continuing this language that is leading to hate crimes, to terrible acts against marginalised students. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. And same question to you, Sarah.
Yeah, I agree with most of what Sam said. I just think that we need to be aware of the free speech regulation that was mentioned with the postgraduate candidates. It's something that I've been in conversation with in college as JCR president, because we were also concerned about what that means for academic freedom and for student safety.
I recognise that we have to uphold these voices on campus now, even when we disagree with what they're saying. But I think that the idea, the making sure we're providing suitable support to students when it happens, because it will happen, is the most important thing. So my policies of standardising tutor training and wellbeing coordinators and generally just better mental health support, I think is really the thing to focus on here when it comes to supporting students after things like this happen, which they are going to over the next year, really unfortunately.
Thank you very much. And we'll move on to any questions from the floor. Is anyone? Let's just go for it.
Thank you very much. I was struck by, I think, what one of the candidates said, but I'll try and kind of like frame it around a question that both can answer. Do you think, and I maybe put the question, the answer probably yes, like, do you think there is a long-term problem with engagement and trust in the SU? And if I can offer my own personal opinion, do you believe that is a symptom of years of over-promising? And how are you not over-promising? Why is it when one candidate tells me that they're going to deliver resits, when one candidate tells me they're going to deliver a reading week after so many years, do you think that in making those promises you are not becoming part of the problem? Do you not think that you're over-promising yet again? And when you're sat here, and you will be in a year's time, at least one of you, sitting in my position, hearing someone promise something that you don't believe, that you see on the inside, maybe can't be delivered, do you think you're becoming part of the problem? Or do you think that you're offering something fresh and something different and something that will actually get through and happen and change? Long question.
Yeah, so I'm going to shorten that quite a bit because I think it can be basically put into a sort of two sentences of going back to sort of the first question. A lot of previous presidents have said or have made these promises, and actually sort of, I think that happens quite a lot in politics. These promises are made. What makes you different in thinking that they can be sold? And are you perhaps being sort of joining in the previous problem of promising something, it not being delivered, low student trust, trying to win an election by promising something, etc., etc. So I guess we'll go. Does anyone remember which way? Thank you. We'll go this way. So Sarah first, across the way.
Yeah, the first thing that I want to say is that it's my experience that makes me different. We haven't had someone who has been JCR president run for the SU in a very long time, and I think that genuinely JCR reps are the best people to be in this organisation. I'd like to point out that if you go to the SU website, that there are stats on the turnout from different colleges, and my college, Fitz, is currently quite significantly in the lead on turnout, showing how much my own constituents backed me and back me after my actions over the past year, and that's, I hope, something that will convince you that I'm someone trustworthy. In terms of promises, I don't think resits are untenable. Like I said, Oxford has them. There's a body called the Office for the Independent Adjudicator, who are the people who manage higher education institutions and make sure that everyone is being fair. And they are quite angry at Cambridge that they don't offer resits already, because they are good practice for reasonable adjustments and they should be offered. It's absolutely crazy to speak to anyone else from any other university that we don't have resits. And yeah, in that way, I think that my promises are achievable and I have the experience to back it up.
Thank you very much. And the same question to you, Sam.
Yeah, I agree that there is something slightly hypocritical about saying, people haven't delivered on these things, but I can. But I think that the real reason is that the two large policies that are things that people have said before, I think we are now at a point where those are deliverable within the next year. So the SU bar and the reading week, both of which are currently being discussed. They are things that are doable now. The other thing that I want to say is that I also have a lot of experience within the SU through the Ethical Affairs campaign, through also the being an academic rep, and I've also been a rep within courses, as well as engaging with lots of society committees. So I have experience that goes beyond the kind of traditional student politics route of JCR to SU. So that, I think, places me well to address society issues, which is a lot of the time what happens around space and community, which is a lot of the things that the SU keeps getting complained about for not offering. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. And I'll move on to my final question, which I have down here, which is the same as went to the postgraduates, which is how will you go about fostering a supportive and safe environment in the university for students, especially those who are affected by international conflicts or other sort of external events, when we'll come backwards. So, Sam, if you want to go first.
Yep. So, of course, I think, external events at the moment are having a massive effect on students. There's been a rise in both Islamophobic and anti-Semitic hate crimes. But I think that we need to deliver proper reform to the way that welfare support happens, because currently the tutorial system isn't good, and those tutors are often untrained. And also, we need to be providing more welfare facilities at the SU through things like the Student Advice Service, which is often not best suited for that at the moment. The other thing that I want to say is that I've been endorsed by groups that are in solidarity with these affected groups, including the Palestine Solidarity Campaign here in Cambridge. So I think that I am well placed and on the pulse of students who are being affected by these issues, so I can actually make change to help this welfare reform. I've already run welfare events through the Ethical Affairs Campaign when Ben Shapiro came to talk in Cambridge, so I think I can continue that as SU President.
Thank you very much. And the same question to you, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, this again comes back to my policies on mental health, which I keep saying should be the priority of the SU, in my opinion. Standardised training for tutors, part of the reason I put it in there was because I feel like tutors need better training on issues such as Israel-Palestine and other global conflicts, because right now tutors are often not speaking in an adequate way to students who are being so horrifically affected by these issues, and are not getting the adequate support that their tutors should be able to give them had they had better training. I want to acknowledge that the PALSOC endorsements have just come out, and I just wanted to say that the reason I didn't put my name to that statement is because I thought it was better to give my opinion on how the SU should go forward with this conflict in my own words. I'm going to be posting it shortly, but yeah, I feel like it's important that I use my own words to express my thoughts on such a complex issue, rather than just putting my name to something that someone else has written.
Thank you very much. And we'll move to the floor for any final questions, concerns, thoughts, anything like that. If not, then we'll move to our closing statements, going this ways, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Sarah, if you'd like to say, you have up to a minute to say anything more you'd like.
Yes, I will come back to experience and obtainability. I feel like my experience speaks for itself, and I hope that my policies show that I'm hoping for things that are achievable. There's a detailed breakdown of each idea under it, and I'm also very willing to be asked any further questions. I was asked today, for example, about more accessible exam adjustments, and I went into my ideas about a fund for doctor's notes and a standardisation across colleges of specific learning disability funding, where at my college, for example, 50% is funded, whereas I know at Pembroke 90% is funded, and that should be equalled out or covered, frankly. On the Reading Week, there is a Reading Week working group. It hasn't met in over 8 months. I think the university has abandoned this as an idea, and therefore I'm going to go forward with different ideas about the workload problem. As an academic rep, I was involved in Tripos reform, and I think that we need to be going to students from specific subjects to find out what their ideas are. Maybe that's changing the length of terms, maybe that's reducing content, but I'm not sure right now that the Reading Week is ever going to get through this university.
Thank you very much, and same sort of final statements from Sam.
Yeah, so look around you right now, for those of you in the room, for those of you online, look at the viewer count. There is no one here. And that's a problem for a body that is meant to represent thousands of students. And so we don't just need to sort of do the fine-tuning welfare support things that are really important and that the SU should be doing every year. But we also need to sort of have a fundamental rethink about how the SU works. I've proposed a couple of ways that I think we should reform the SU decision-making process on my manifesto, and I have a lot more. And I also have the experience of working within the SU system for the last year and pushing really hard to try and get motions on things students care about, like cutting fossil fuel ties, like cutting arms ties. So I think I have the experience to push these things through committees, and I know that there is a consultation on this building, and the Reading Week working group, while it hasn't met, there is still currently workload reviews ongoing, and so there are things that we can be doing to be pushing for a Reading Week, because it would be something that would change overall. Obviously, Tripos-specific solutions are also needed, but that's something that I think we are less well placed to do.
Thank you very much. And as ever, I'm encouraged to remind you that reopen nominations is also a candidate not sitting here at the moment,
No,
sadly.
but Hamad.
Oh, as is Hamad. So thank you so much. That's very awkward. Yes, so Hamad and the open nominations are both also candidates for this election, as well as Sam Hutton and Sarah Anderson. So if we could give a round of applause, that'd be fantastic. I think that brings us to a close for today. So thank you to all the candidates who came and were allowed themselves to be grilled. Anyone who didn't come, I'm sure, will be happy to answer questions via email. So if there are students who have questions and want them answered, fire away. Other than that, voting is open until I believe it's 5 p.m. on Thursday. That's Thursday the 29th. And then after that, you'll hear the results sort of shortly after in that evening. Only sort of the last thing to think about is that there's an open sort of students all members meeting in a couple of weeks' time. Keep an eye out on the SU website for more details about that. Anyone can propose motions and anyone can vote. So without any further ado, 8:30. Everyone have a good evening. Thank you all for joining, and see you next time.
And thank you, Archie.